She barged into my backyard before I had even finished unpacking boxes. Her voice cut through the air like a siren. "This pier is not yours! Tear it down now, or I'll call the HOA board and have you fined." I stood frozen for a second, my hand still gripping the rope that held my small boat. I had only moved in yesterday, yet here she was, acting like she owned the water itself. Neighbors peeked from behind their blinds, watching, whispering. She planted her feet on my pier as if she had some authority, waving a clipboard with fake forms stapled on. I tried to keep calm. "Ma'am, you're standing on my property?" I said, but she laughed in my face. "Property? This is community land and I decide what happens here." Her tone wasn't just rude, it dripped with entitlement. She raised her phone, snapping photos of my boat, my dock, even my house. "Illegal construction. HOA violation. You'll be removed." Before I could reply, she dialed 911 on speaker, yelling, "Yes, we have a trespasser here. He's building without permission. Send someone quick before he destroys the shoreline." I couldn't believe it. She was reporting me for standing on my own pier. My blood boiled, but I bit my tongue. Because what she didn't know was that this little pier she was screaming about wasn't just mine. I owned the entire marina. Her face would change soon, but I let her keep shouting for now. The more she screamed, the deeper she was digging her own hole. And as I stood there watching her, one thought burned in my head: she has no idea who she's picking a fight with. 2 police cruisers rolled up faster than I expected, lights flashing, sirens wailing. Karen waved her arms like she had summoned an army. "Over here. Arrest him! He's trespassing on community property," she shouted, pointing at me as if I were some criminal caught red-handed. The officers stepped out, their hands resting on their belts, eyes narrowing at the scene. I kept my calm, but inside my chest my heart was pounding. One officer asked, "Sir, can you step away from the pier?" Before I could answer, Karen shoved her clipboard into his hand. "This dock violates HOA rules. He moved in yesterday and already thinks he can take over our lake. Tow his boat, write him up, do whatever you need, but get him off." I could see the neighbors filming from their porches now, whispering louder. One woman muttered, "He just moved in, this is insane." But no one dared speak up for me in front of Karen. The cops turned to me, waiting for my side. Karen smirked, folding her arms like victory was already hers. I took a breath and said slowly, "Officers, before you decide anything, you might want to look at some paperwork too." Karen rolled her eyes and laughed. "Paperwork?" He probably printed something off Google. That's when I pulled out a folder I had kept ready for moments exactly like this. "This isn't just a pier," I said, locking eyes with her. "This marina, every inch of it, belongs to me." The officers glanced at the documents, and I caught one of them raising his brows. Karen's smirk faltered for the first time, but she quickly snapped back, shouting, "Fake! All fake, don't let him trick you. He's lying." She didn't realize her biggest mistake was already happening. Neighbors, cameras catching everything. Her voice, her lies, her desperation. And just as the tension peaked, one officer's radio crackled with a call from dispatch. "Be advised, the marina property owner is the complainant, not the suspect." Karen's face went pale. Karen's jaw clenched so hard I thought her teeth might break. The officer handed her back the clipboard and said flatly, "Ma'am, according to records, this entire marina is private property, his property." Gasps rippled through the neighbors who were still filming. Karen's eyes darted around, realizing the crowd wasn't on her side anymore. But instead of backing off, she doubled down. She stomped closer to me, almost nose to nose, and hissed, "I don't care what papers you've got. HOA runs this neighborhood and you don't scare me. We'll remove you." Then right in front of the cops, she pulled out a bright orange sticker, the kind used for abandoned vehicles, and slapped it onto my boat. "Consider this impounded," she sneered. The officer barked, "Ma'am, that's tampering with private property. Step back now." But she ignored him, pacing the dock like she was the sheriff. "This man is a liar. He's faking deeds and you're all falling for it. Do your job." I could see the officers losing patience. One of them said, "Enough games. If you don't stop, you'll be charged for harassment." But Karen only laughed, raising her phone again. "Oh, I'll stop when the real authorities arrive." Then she dialed a number on speaker. A man's voice answered, deep and commanding, "This is Officer Daniels." "What's the situation?" Karen beamed like she had just pulled the ace out of her sleeve. "Officer, it's Karen from Lakeside HOA. We've got a trespasser refusing to leave. Get a tow truck and backup. We need to seize his boat. The neighbors froze. The cops on scene frowned. Something wasn't right. One officer leaned toward me and whispered, "That voice. It's not coming from dispatch. It's a private line." Karen turned the phone outward proudly as if she had backup on the way. What she didn't realize was that the so-called officer she just called wasn't law enforcement at all, and I knew exactly who he was. The crowd went silent as Karen strutted around with her phone on speaker, barking orders like she was leading an operation. "Yes, Officer Daniels, tow truck impound team, get here now. This man is resisting the HOA and refuses to vacate." She grinned at me, her eyes glittering with triumph. The neighbors shifted uneasily, some whispering, "That doesn't sound like real cops." The officer beside me narrowed his eyes. "Ma'am, put that phone on hold. We'll verify with dispatch." Karen spun toward him, shaking her head furiously. "No, you don't understand. He's our officer. HOA has its own enforcement." That was her fatal mistake. The cop yanked the phone from her hand and held it up. "Identify yourself, sir." There was a pause on the line, then the shaky voice said, This is Officer Daniels, official law." The officer cut him off. "Funny, because Daniels doesn't exist in our department. You're impersonating law enforcement, and this call is being recorded." Karen's face drained of all color. No, you don't get it. He's helping us." But it was too late. The second officer was already on his radio, calling in the real sheriff's office. Neighbors gasped, phones raised higher, recording every second. One man whispered, "She's done." "She's actually done." I stepped forward slowly, my voice calm but firm. "Karen, you tried to strip me of my rights on my own land. You planted fake notices. You called fake cops. And now the real ones know the truth." The first patrol car from the sheriff's office rolled in. Bigger, bolder, lights flooding the pier. A deputy stepped out with a clipboard. "We've been waiting for this report for months. HOA's been running a scam, and it looks like you just exposed yourself on camera." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. The crowd erupted, half in shock, half in satisfaction. The officers moved in, reading her rights as her phone clattered to the dock. She locked eyes with me one last time, pure hatred burning in them. But I didn't flinch. I just said the one line I knew would echo with everyone watching. "You tried to own the water, Karen, but you forgot who owns the land." Karen was handcuffed right there on the dock, her protests echoing over the water. "This isn't over. I run this neighborhood. You'll regret this." But no one believed her anymore. The same neighbors who once stayed silent were now speaking up, voices breaking through her screams. "We've had enough of your bullying, Karen. It ends today." Phones kept recording, catching every second of her downfall. The sheriff's deputy handed me back my folder of documents with a respectful nod. "You own it fair and square. The Marina, the Pier, the water rights. She had no authority to touch anything." His tone softened as he added, "Most people don't fight back." "Glad you did." I looked around at the crowd, families clutching their kids, tired faces finally seeing justice, and I felt something deeper than relief. I felt proud. "I didn't buy this place to fight with anyone," I said. "I bought it because I wanted peace. But no one has the right to strip away what we work for. Not here, not anywhere." The sheriff's men escorted Karen away, her voice fading as she was pushed into the back of the cruiser. Neighbors actually clapped. One man shouted, "Finally!" Another whispered, "About time someone stood up to her." For the first time since I moved in, people smiled at me, not with suspicion, but with gratitude. I untied my boat and stepped onto the pier, letting the water rock beneath me. The same pier she had tried to steal felt different now, like a symbol. My daughter came running from the house, her small voice carrying across the water. "Daddy, is it really ours?" I picked her up, holding her tight. "All of it," I said. "And no one can take it from us again." The neighbors' cheers echoed like a promise. Justice wasn't just served, it was sealed. And as the sun set behind the marina I now rightfully owned, I thought to myself, I didn't fight for this land to surrender it to someone's fake authority. This is my home. My family's safe. And that's all that matters.